Imagine being caught between two of the most powerful queens in Europe, one who could have you killed and another who might make you king. Now imagine that you're already the king of the most powerful empire in the world, controlling territories so vast that the sun never sets on them. This isn't a Netflix drama. This is the true story of how King Philip II of Spain found himself in history's most dangerous love triangle, a Game of Thrones that would lead to executions, attempted invasions, and change the face of Europe forever. Welcome to Arnie's Brain Train, where we're diving deep into the romance, betrayal, and power plays that shaped the modern world. Before we dive into this royal mess, let's set the stage. The year is 1558, and Europe is a powder keg of religious tension. In England, we have the newly crowned Elizabeth I, young, Protestant, and determined to never marry. She's just inherited a kingdom in chaos after her Catholic half-sister, Mary Tudor's death. The country is broke, divided by religion, and surrounded by enemies. But Elizabeth has something powerful. Her father Henry VIII's stubborn determination, and her mother Anne Boleyn's quick wit. Now, in Scotland, there's Mary Stuart, Catholic, beautiful, and already a queen at age 16. She's been raised in the sophisticated French court, speaks multiple languages, and has a legitimate claim to the English throne that makes Elizabeth nervous. And she's not afraid to use her charm to get what she wants. Finally, there's Philip II of Spain, the most powerful Catholic monarch in Europe, controlling an empire that includes Spain, Portugal, the Netherlands, much of Italy, and vast territories in the New World. He's recently widowed after the death of England's Mary Tudor, and he's looking for a new wife to expand his empire. But Philip isn't just any king. He's a man who spends hours reading every diplomatic dispatch, writing notes in the margins, and micromanaging his vast empire. Now, here's the fun Game of Thrones part. Philip wasn't just any widower, he was actually Elizabeth's former brother-in-law, having been married to her half-sister, Mary Tudor. Their marriage had been a disaster for England, dragging the country into costly wars and earning Mary the nickname Bloody Mary for her persecution of Protestants. When Mary Tudor died, Philip did something that shocked Europe. He proposed marriage to Elizabeth, the new Protestant queen. Yeah, you heard right, the most powerful Catholic monarch wanted to marry the head of the Protestant Church. Now, let's pause for a moment as you ask yourself, why is this such a big deal? Philip's empire was enormous. His American silver mines provided wealth beyond imagination. His army was the most feared in Europe. His navy dominated the Mediterranean. A marriage to Elizabeth would have created a superpower unlike anything Europe had ever seen. But there was a catch. Philip wanted England to return to Catholicism. Elizabeth's response to Philip was a masterclass in the filibuster. She kept him waiting, and waiting, and waiting. She told her advisors, "I cannot like this Spanish marriage, and I will never marry anyone I have not seen." But she didn't outright reject Philip. She knew that as long as Philip thought he had a chance, he wouldn't move against England. Meanwhile, she was rebuilding England's navy and sending secret aid to Protestant rebels in Philip's territories. Elizabeth's council was divided on the marriage proposal. Some, like William Cecil, her chief advisor, saw the advantages of a Spanish alliance. Others warned that Philip would try to dominate England just as he had with Mary Tudor. Elizabeth herself quipped, "I would rather be a beggar and single than a queen and get married." Meanwhile, in Scotland, young Mary Stuart was watching this dance of diplomacy with growing interest. She had her own claim to the English throne, being Elizabeth's cousin through Henry VIII's sister, Margaret. But Mary had a problem. She needed a powerful ally to support her claim. And who better than Philip II? She also had another advantage. She was Catholic, like Philip and like many of England's nobles who weren't happy with Elizabeth's Protestant reforms. This is where our love triangle gets spicy. Philip began secretly corresponding with Mary, offering support for her claim to the English throne. His ambassadors sent him detailed reports about both queens. About Elizabeth, they wrote that she was possessed of great intelligence and cunning. About Mary, they reported that she was the rightful heir, but perhaps too influenced by her heart. This intricate dance intensified when Mary married her cousin, Lord Darnley, in 1565. This was a calculated move that strengthened her claim to the English throne, as Darnley was also Elizabeth's cousin. Philip II saw this as a perfect opportunity. If Mary and Darnley had a Catholic heir, they could potentially unite Scotland and England under Catholic rule. However, things kind of fell through. Like, really fell through. Darnley turned out to be a drunk and a fool. He became jealous of Mary's secretary, Dave Rizzio, and had him murdered right in front of the pregnant Mary. Then Darnley himself was murdered in a mysterious explosion. Mary quickly married the main suspect, the Earl of Bothwell, causing a scandal that would lead to her downfall. Meanwhile, Elizabeth had been watching all of this through her extensive spy network, led by the very brilliant and ruthless Francis Walsingham. Every letter, every meeting, every whispered conversation was reported back to London. Elizabeth used this information like a master chess player, keeping both Philip and Mary off balance while strengthening England's position. The situation finally reached a boiling point in 1568, when Mary fled to England after being forced off the Scottish throne. She expected Elizabeth to help her regain her crown. Instead, Elizabeth kept her under house arrest. This put Philip in a difficult position. Should he support Mary's claim to the English throne, back Elizabeth, who at least kept England stable, or should he try to conquer England himself? Philip chose a dangerous game. He began secretly supporting Catholic plots to overthrow Elizabeth and put Mary on the throne. The most famous was the Babington Plot of 1586. But Elizabeth's spymaster, Walsingham, had infiltrated the conspiracy. He let it develop just enough so that he could implicate Mary, and then he struck. The evidence was damning. Mary had approved the assassination of Elizabeth in coded letters. The political love triangle finally reached its tragic climax in 1587. Elizabeth, after years of hesitation, signed Mary's death warrant. The execution was botched. It took 3 blows to sever Mary's head, and when her head finally fell, her small dog was found hiding in her skirts, covered in blood. Philip, enraged by Mary's execution and Elizabeth's final rejection, launched the Spanish Armada in 1588. One of the largest naval invasions in history. Overall, the Armada was a disaster for Philip. English ships, smaller but more maneuverable, used the weather and innovative tactics to destroy the Spanish fleet. Elizabeth had ridden to Tilbury to rally her troops, declaring, "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and a king of England too." In the end, Elizabeth emerged victorious, becoming a legend in her own lifetime. The Spanish Armada's destruction marked the beginning of English naval dominance and Spain's long decline. Philip never recovered from the defeat, dying a decade later with his empire beginning to crumble. And Mary? She became a Catholic martyr, her son James eventually becoming both King of England and Scotland after Elizabeth's death, the very thing all 3 monarchs had schemed and fought over in the first place. This triangle of love, power, and religion had consequences that echo to this day. Elizabeth's victory established England as a Protestant power and set it on the path to becoming a global empire. Spain's defeat marked the end of its golden age. The union of England and Scotland under Mary's son James created the foundation for modern Britain. So, next time someone tells you that modern politics is complicated, remind them about the time when two queens and a king turned their personal lives into a Game of Thrones episode that changed the world. When Elizabeth died in 1603, she left a country transformed. The last Tudor had outmaneuvered them all. The powerful Philip, the beautiful Mary, and every other challenger to her throne. She died as she had lived, unmarried, unbowed, and undefeated. Well guys, this has been Arnie's Brain Train, bringing you the most fascinating stories from science and history. If you enjoyed this royal drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to catch our next historical adventure. All of our references and sources can be found in the description below. Please leave a comment and tell us which historical figure you'd like to learn about next. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time.